outside of work, what sort of specific hobbies or special interests do you like to pursue?
So board games,
Yep.
computer games. That's probably the most interesting things to me.
When you're playing board games, is it mostly just with the wife or family or friends or by yourself? Or
all three. Wife, friends, and family.
Right.
To play with. Yeah. And the thing I find what I like about it is the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And also on top of that, the interaction between people I find very interesting because it shows you what some people are like underneath the veneer of, the facade that everyone has, what is important to them, what drives them to do things within board games.
That's interesting, yeah, because I know I've played a couple of those with you guys before, and it is quite interesting. For the sake of the listeners out there, sort of what are some board games that you really would highly recommend for those who sound, that sounds interesting, I'd like to give one a shot. Is there any you recommend?
So keep in mind there are lots of different board games,
right?
Lots of different computer games, and depending on who you are, you might like different sort of computer games.
Sure.
And you might like different sorts of board games.
Okay, so
there are some very popular ones.
Right.
So One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Say that again?
One night, so single night.
One night?
Ultimate Werewolf.
Ultimate Werewolf.
Yeah, so that's a very simple board game. It's almost like a party game.
Right.
Which can be played with anywhere between 4 to 8 players.
Yep.
And the games last for 5 minutes, call it. And so it's a very simple way to enter the whole board game genre. Yeah, so that's one I would recommend if you like the social interaction party games.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I'd recommend if you like the challenge sort of games and negotiation is Settlers of Catan.
Settlers of Catan.
Yeah. So that's more in-depth. The games take, 1.5 hours.
Right.
Something like that.
How do you spell Catan?
Catan.
Catan. I will put these in the show notes on the website, guys, so you can look back at that. But Settlers of Catan.
Yep.
Right.
So those are, let's say, pretty simple games. Yeah.
What are you actually doing in Settlers of Catan? What is it, like a strategy thing?
Yeah. So Settlers of Catan is the theme is, the story is, you guys have reached this island called Catan, and whoever builds the most on it develops their economy the fastest. Once they hit a certain point, becomes the winner.
Oh, okay.
So you just build roads and you build settlements, and the more settlements you build, the more resources you can gain from that to build more.
Right.
Etc. Etc.
Interesting.
The interesting part about that game is no one by themselves has enough resources to build, and they have to negotiate with other people to trade resources. So it forms alliances and that sorts of things.
Right.
And because you can't win by yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, it's very interesting to see how people align themselves and what they're willing to promise and then go back on.
Yeah, no, I know you love these strategy / I call it trickery sometimes because seriously, sometimes I just my brain hurts when I try to play these things with these guys because there's obviously so much strategy going on, and for me rest means not using my brain. So, but no, obviously you like that type of thing, and no, I really like the fact that you're knocking two birds with one stone. You're getting mentally stimulated, but at the same time, you've got that social interaction piece, which is very important. What's a game that you're enjoying right now?
Right now, we like playing Machikoro.
How do you spell that?
Machikoro.
Machikoro. That sounds Japanese.
Well, it's a Japanese word, I think. But it's English game.
Oh, okay.
English is in Western, not
right.
English is from England.
Oh, right.
But it's just a simple game. It's super simple. You roll some dice. If it comes up the number which you've bought, then it pays you money, and you can buy some more numbers, and so on and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who are you playing that with these days?
So with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
with my closest group of board game friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So board games, and you mentioned there were a lot of genres. Like, so there's the strategy type, like your Settlers of Catan. There's your what type of game would you say the One Night Ultimate Werewolf?
So One Night Ultimate Werewolf is borderline party game.
Okay. Yep.
So you might have heard of a game like Mafia. People play.
Right.
It's very similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Except streamlined.
Right.
So
by party game, you mean just a whole bunch of people. The game is more based on talking to each other,
yes,
rather than anything else.
So
right?
lots of people, it all based around talking to each other. There's no paper or dice or anything like that. It's just a lot of talking and very easy to pick up.
Most people may know what Mafia is. So, how would you explain what the theme is in One Night Ultimate Werewolf?
So, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you have a group of people, let's say 5 people.
Yep.
One of you is the werewolf.
Right.
And you guys, everyone gets given pieces of information about, some people get given pieces of information, but everyone gets some piece of information about who they could be and who some other people could be, let's say. And then you have to discuss to figure out who to lynch at the end of that night, because you're trying to kill the werewolf.
Right.
If you're not the werewolf.
Right.
But if you're the werewolf, you're trying to get someone else killed. But you need consensus for the town to wake up and say, that guy's going to go there to get executed.
Wow.
And so the person who gets pointed at gets executed with the most votes. If they turn over their card and they're a werewolf, then the villagers have won. They've killed the werewolf.
Right, right.
But if they've killed the villager, then the werewolf's won.
Right,
because he survived the night.
So is it just after one kill, the game's over, or is it okay? So it's not till the last person standing or anything. That's one lynch, and then that's it.
So it's like a streamlined version of the Mafia game, which was multiple rounds.
Right. Yeah. Because I guess with Mafia is a similar concept, but it's more until a certain number of people are left.
Yeah.
And then
right.
they win.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it Mafia versus?
So
how does that work again? I can't even remember anymore.
I think it was just Mafia versus normal people.
Yeah, normal people. Right, right. That's either one side or the other wins. Very cool. So three games mentioned there. One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
So party game, Settlers, is what they call. I don't even know what genre that falls in, but it's a very introductory game.
Right. Okay.
They call it a gateway game sometimes, where people start on that game before they move into the whole board game genre. And then there are Euro games, which are typically games where you don't have much conflict with each other.
Right.
But it's all about optimizing your resources and resource allocation to build to get to whatever the fastest, the objective of the game, whatever it is.
And that's more a collaborative thing rather than a competitive
so it's
thing?
individual competitive, but you don't actually butt heads with each other that much. So
it's just you're doing your own thing, trying to do that.
Yeah, to fastest. Who gets it fastest.
And that's EURO?
Yep. Euro games. Which Settlers is sort of close-ish to that.
Right.
And then there are like what they call hidden role games. Where you have everyone's trying to do something, but then not all of you on the same side, but you don't know who's on the other side.
Isn't that like the party game type of thing?
So it's not really. So that party game is a little bit hidden role, but not. It's more party game than a hidden role game.
Right.
So hidden role game. My favorite is Battlestar Galactica board game.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, where you're all trying to run from the evil robots that are trying to kill you. And you have to manage your ship and all these crises happen. You have to work together to deal with it. But not all of you are human. Like one of you is an evil robot.
Right.
And that sort of a game. That's more hidden role, I guess.
So hidden role, Euro games, party games.
And there's heaps more in between.
Right. But I think that's a pretty awesome introduction into that type of genre. So, yeah, if you haven't considered board games, it sounds really interesting. Actually, I'll list those and maybe a few more suggestions that Dennis gives me later, and I'll put them on the website.